Alright, so I'm doing a tier list for Mario Party Superstars. So as you can see here, we have the different categories. This is how I decide to divide everything up. So, S is obviously for games that I consider pretty much perfect. A is for, really great games. B is kind of like it's where you get into the average range, where it's like, it's a pretty average game, but I would consider it sort of on the better end of average. And then C is on the lower end of average. And then D is it's where we get to the games that are, I would consider those are the ones that are like bad, you know, just not very good at all. And I'll explain why for a lot of these games, why I'm tiering them a certain way. And then F is terrible. F is just like the games are just very poorly designed, or, well, you'll see my reasons why. So let's start off with Mushroom Mix-Up. This is a classic, so I'll just throw this right into S tier because it's just a classic game of, you have the different colors and it speeds up, and it's a classic 4-player game with no serious flaws whatsoever, so it deserves its place in S tier as a classic game. Next up we have Castaways, which this game is it's a fairly difficult minigame, but there's a high risk, there's a high reward for your effort for this game, like it's for your skill essentially. Um, the only thing I would say about this game, the only thing I don't like about it, is that the controls are a little too sensitive. The controls are a bit awkward, right? If the controls were better, this would be S tier, I think. But no, I'm just having it in A tier for now. Hammer Drop, another coin minigame. I think that this is another great minigame. It's however many coins you get to keep those, and that's it. If you fall off, you're knocked off. You're disqualified for the rest of the minigame. It's one of those Mario Party 1 games that are they're pretty punishing, right? But I guess you could say it could maybe even be S tier if not for that. But on the other hand, it kind of adds a sort of, you got to be careful not to fall off. You Like most coin mini games, you can't really lose this. It's just, you get coins and that's it. Facelift. This is another this is another really good mini game. It's another classic. It's a little bit different than in the original, I think, but once you get used to it, yeah, it's quite a good mini game. There's really not much to it other than you're just matching the face. There's a lot of variations, so again, that's a good hallmark of a good minigame. Which one is this one? This is Piranhas Pursuit. Yeah, this is a 1v3 game. This one is a little bit, it's kind of hit or miss. I'd say in the lower average, C tier, because well, if the one player plays flawlessly, I don't think it's possible for them to lose. So it's a little bit. These 1v3 games and 2v2 games are a little bit more difficult to balance, obviously, so they're going to be tiered a bit lower than many 4-player games, I think. But yeah, this game has its flaws, so not it's far from the worst game that you could play, but C tier. This one is from Mario Party 2, I think, or Bobsled Run. So Bobsled Run, yeah, it's okay. I'd say it's sort of just average, low average, C tier. So you mash A lot at the beginning, which is fine, and then you steer the bobsled. It's nothing really special. It's just sort of a standard 2v2 game, which tend to be a bit worse than your average free for all. So C tier. We have what's this one? This is the Tug of War. Of course, yeah, of course it's called Tug of War. All right, so Tug of War is 1v3 game. I would say B tier. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Like if you're the one player, you know, it's like 1v3. Whoever rotates the control stick faster wins. You know, it's fair enough. Of course, if you're in one of the three, you know, it kind of varies. You know, who's better at doing that. But overall, I would say it's a pretty solid minigame. If you're the one who's alone, it's up to you to win. If you're in the one of the three, well, you can still have a big influence on the outcome. And it's, you know, it's a pretty fun minigame. It's a classic from Mario Party 1, and yeah, it's great. So next one is Handcar Havik, I believe it's called. Not Handcar. Handcar. I think this one's called Handcar Havik. Anyway, this one, I put it in the lower average. The controls, again, the controls are a bit frustrating. It's a 2v2 game. You can fall off and then you're out of the game for good. So you know, it all depends on who you're paired with in the 2v2, and you know, the control of the cars. It's kind of like Bobsled Run in the sense that, you know, you don't really have full control because it is a 2v2 game. And it can be pretty frustrating, you know, falling off, obviously, because it's automatic loss. It's also button mashing combined with steering. It's awkward to play. It's awkward to play because you got to focus on button mashing. I'm not exactly sure how hard. You must button mash, but you also need to slow down too, though. So that's something. I mean, the game clearly has some element of skill in it, but I think it's far from the best game out there. I believe that this one is called Tipsy. It's Tipsy Turvy, of course. So Tipsy Turvy. I'd throw it in the B tier. It's pretty solid. There's not really a whole lot going on. There's no player interaction or anything like that. But not every game needs to have player interaction to be considered good. You know, it's mainly just the skill of who can get the shell to cover all the squares the fastest, and pretty standard. You know, I'd say it's pretty solidly an average game, maybe in the upper range of average. And yeah. All right, Shy Guy says this is a little bit more contentious, I think. I would say that it's not a bad minigame. I would say it's lower average because there's certainly like there's some skill involved in this game. You know, he'll try to throw you off and stuff. It's also somewhat fun and suspenseful and stuff like that. So I can see the appeal of the game, but I wouldn't really put it much higher than C tier because it is a classic from the originals, but it's not my favorite. Let's just put it that way. I think there's a lot of mixed opinions on this one in particular. Crazy Cutters, I'd throw that into A tier. Nice. I really like this one because there's a lot of variations in it. So it's obviously there's an element of skill and there's variations, all these different designs you can cut out. And you know, it's nothing groundbreaking or, you know, outstanding, but it's a very good solid minigame. It's also a classic, and again, there's no player interaction, but I do think it's a little bit more fun to play than, say, Tipsy Turvy. So A tier. Bombs Away. Bombs Away is decent. I'd say it's B tier. It's not like a fantastic game or anything like that. It's another classic, and it's one of those games where you can in the old game Mario Party you could actually draw, and I don't think you'd get coins. Some of these games you would just draw and you wouldn't get coins, but they fixed that in Mario Party Superstars. Now every draw, it's just everybody left over still wins. So there's not really a whole lot going on in this one. They also took out the one where the Bowser launches this huge bomb at the end. They took that out. Now it just fires cannonballs, I think. So it's a little bit more like Mario Party 1 rather than Mario Party 2 version of it. So it feels a little bit watered down, but it's a solid minigame. I would say B tier. Look Away. This is a 1v3 game. Look Away is one of those games that's fairly well designed in terms of being a 1v3 game. You know, because they have 5 chances to knock you out, and there's 3 of you, and you know you can cooperate a little bit to look in different directions and stuff like that. Even with CPUs, you can, you know, it's a pretty even game. There's really not a whole lot to say here. You know, it's good. It's decent. It's not like you dread playing this. It's all right. Quicksand Cash. This is another great game. I'm not really sure, B tier or A tier. I would say like the most coin games are great. Like I think they're great. So Quicksand Cash, I would give it a, you know, maybe a low A tier. It's, you know, if you're the one player, you control the sand. The other 3 have to collect coins. Now, in the original Mario Party, you actually kept the coins that you collected yourself, I believe. So if you're one of the 3, it was up to you to collect your own. In this one, they're all sort of pooled together. I kind of like it when it's more separated. So you know, the game I kind of dock a little bit of points from the game for that reason, but I don't really think it's enough to make a significant difference. The overall feel of the game is still there. Of course, you can get eliminated, so that's why you have to play carefully. It's a sort of cost-benefit analysis if you want to go for that coin bag or not. You know, that's near the getting close to the middle, or if you want to play it safe. It's a pretty good, solid game and another great classic. Sneak and Snore. This one is complicated. This one's a lot more complicated, I think, than most people give it credit for. It's a little bit frustrating to play. I know a lot of people don't like this one. I would say it's C tier, lower average, because there is some strategy involved. Like you know, if you slow down, you can stop more quickly and stuff like that. So it's okay. I think there's a little bit of luck. There's some luck involved though, because the chain jump, how it wakes up, it's kind of random, and you have to juggle that with, you know, how far ahead or behind are other people to you. So there's quite a lot of thinking involved, and it's good. That's what keeps this game from being considered trash. Um, but I would still say it's on the lower average side, just because I think there's a little bit too much of a luck factor for this game to truly be considered, you know, solid or great. This one is looks like Roll Call. Roll Call is okay. Lower average, C tier. It's not a bad minigame. You're just counting though. I do like that there's a little bit of strategy, because if people are relying on you to get the correct answer for this one, you can fake them out at the last second. That's a strategy that I've adopted since the beginning of playing Mario Party. But there's really not a whole lot going on in this game. It's very basic. There's different variations though, and that's sort of what keeps this game out of D tier, is the fact that, you know, there's different variations of this minigame. So it's pretty well average. Bowser's Big Blast is F tier, because do I have to explain why? Probably not. I don't think so, but I will anyway. It's 100% luck, so it's just bad. It's horrible, right? Terrible game. So not much else to say about that. Cake Factory. This one is just another C tier game. Like it's you know, it's just a basic 2v2 game, nothing special, and you know, instead of the game, you know, the person that you're with, you know, determines the winner as well. So again, most of these 2v2 games are a little more frustrating to play, so they get docked points, but it's not a bad minigame. I can't really say anything bad about it. It's just sort of, you know, meh. If it gets picked, it's not the end of the world, but you'd rather probably be playing something else. Anyway, Speed Hockey. This game is a little bit more. It's very engaging. Like with the shell, often speeds up, and it's very it's a 2v2 game, but it's very engaging. It's a little bit hit or miss, I would say. I think B tier is a good place for it. Yeah, I just think B tier is a good place for it. There's quite a bit of hype in this game. You know, the hype also helps, you know, with the scoring of these games, because part of Mario Party is, you know, the hype. And Speed Hockey is one of those games that keeps people very engaged. So It's good. Slot Car Derby, probably another controversial one. I would actually say that this is you really have to figure out how to play this properly. I would say that it's actually B tier. It's solid, quite a solid game. You have to know when to slow down and speed up and stuff like that. But otherwise, it's pretty solid. All right, Mecha Marathon. This one is S tier. It's just hype as hell, right? Because you got to button mash A, and you're button mashing A and B at the same time. That can be awkward depending on which controller you're using. A GameCube controller makes it a little bit awkward, but even so, you know, button mashing hype is always good. Those games, I just tend to rate those high. It's just this intense 10 seconds of winding it up and then seeing, you know, how far everything goes. It's great. So I'd say S tier. It's another classic from, I believe, Mario Party 2, right? That's the best Mario Party. I don't really care what anybody else says. So great game. This one is, what is this called? What is this one from? I think it's from Mario Party 3. Or maybe it's Mario Party 2. I think it's called Balloon Burst. Alright, so another good 2v2 game. I would say B tier. It's not bad, right? It's based on, you know how fast you can pump. You also have to time your pumps properly, I believe, as well. So you can't just mash. You can't really mash. It's more of a timing thing with the alternating the L and the R, and you know, it requires a different sort of. It's not a button mashing game. It's a rhythm type of game, so it's good. And I'd say B tier for upper average. Shell Shocked. This game's not good. D tier. Shell Shocked is, or it's not called Shell Shocked anymore. It's called something else. It's called Tread Carefully, I believe. Okay, I think it's called Tread Carefully. So this one, I think there's two versions of this. So there's one with the pipe in the middle, and then there's one with a bunch of pipes everywhere. The one with a bunch of pipes everywhere is actually like not that bad because you have a bunch of barriers to start off with. The one where there's just one pipe in the middle and there's like no protection anywhere, that's just you can just get killed right away because people can just gang up on you and shoot you, and you move very slow in this game. The turning is slow, but the shooting is pretty quick. It's also another one of those games where if you get down to just two people, it's probably going to end in what would have been a draw, but now it's you get coins. That keeps this game from being F tier, right? The fact that you can still get coins now, even if it's a tie between two players. But it's just not very good because, again, it's very easy for people to gang up on you, like extremely easy. So I don't think that that's very good design, and it's not particularly fun. It can end for you in 5 seconds if you get ganged up on. So it's whatever, you know. It's pretty bad. I mean, it's not a complete luck game like Bowser's Big Castle, but it's far from a good game, I would say. Hot Rope Jump, classic that I would throw right into A tier. You gotta time your jumps. Gotta time those jumps. And that's all there is to it. You know, you gotta know how to short hop. I would say you probably shouldn't. You know, you gotta know how to short hop to get very far in this game. And it's just an intensive competition of who can last the longest, and not much else. You know, it's not exactly the most creative game ever made, but it's another great classic. Bumper Balls. Now, this would probably be an F tier if this was actually the original one, which, well, if it was the original in the sense that you know, you would end in a draw, because almost every time with Bumper Balls is that you get down to just two people, and those two people just bash against each other until the timer runs out, and then it's a draw, and nobody gets any coins, which I think is I thought that was really stupid, because if you actually survive down to two players, you deserve something, right? Instead of nobody getting anything. So Bumper Balls is not F tier in Superstars. They kind of fixed that problem. Overall, it's a fun mini game. It's a fun mini game, fun enough to not be dreadful or anything like that. I would put it in B tier. upper average, because hey, if two people win, so what? You both get coins. That's fine. Nothing too crazy there. And again, it is fun until you get down to the last two people, then you kind of just wait it out usually, or you try as much as you can to win, but probably not going to. It's probably just going to end in a two-player victory. It's a classic too, right? It's fun. Overall, it's pretty fun. All right, Honeycomb Havoc. This game's like, it's kind of luck, but it's also, a bit of math. You have to think, and there's luck involved. It's not like it's not a perfect minigame by any means, but I've always kind of liked this one, even though your positioning is random, and where the comb is placed, I think, is also random. And if you know what you're doing, then you're going to be in a much better position than if you just played Bowser's Big Blast and you hope for the best, right? I do think that. So this is C tier. This is still in the average range. It's not bad enough for me to say, oh, this is a bad minigame. It's not. It's a classic from Mario Party 2, and I still kind of enjoy playing it, even when I don't win it. Even when I don't win, I don't know. It's just something about this game that's kind of fun. It's probably just the numbers. Thinking about the numbers and just watching it tick down. Okay, next minigame is Bumper Balloon Cars. I think this is another great minigame. I'm going to put it in A tier. So it's just one of those games where you got to you fight it out and see who comes out on top. And once the controls are a little bit strange, but I find they're kind of intuitive once if you've played this minigame enough times, you get used to it, and it seems unchanged from the original, which is good. Usually, it's not going to end in a draw. Usually, somebody wins, so it's better than bumper balloon. It's better than bumper balls in that case. The bumper balloon cars. It's like a better version of that, you could say. There's strategy. You can go back. You can go forward. You can hit somebody to make them spin. There's a lot to it. And it's almost S tier, I would argue, but not quite. What is this one called? This one is what is this one? I do not know what this one's called. No. Well, whatever this one's called, it's a 2v2 game. I don't like it. I don't like it because it's very easy to it's very easy to mess this one up. And there's the cannons that get fired, and again, you could be steering, but somebody else could be steering. If you get hit by that, it sets you back so far. And often I find if you get hit by it once, you can get stuck in a loop where you keep getting hit. So it's like either you cruise through, or you're just getting bombarded and knocked all the way back, and it's pretty frustrating to play this one. I would consider this to be quite an inferior minigame in D tier. So, and I don't even remember what it's called. So yeah, that's my opinion of that game. All right, Dizzy Dancing, another classic. I believe it's from Mario Party 2. Yeah, it's a great minigame. They actually updated it. They actually improved it. I would say it's an improvement. So A tier. It's an improvement because now it's not just one note. Often the game would only last 2 or 3 seconds sometimes. If the player figures it out and goes right for it, the game ends. But now it's just whoever collects a certain amount in a certain time. So the game lasts a bit longer. It's pretty fun. And a great standard 4-player classic, I would say. You can jump on each other. You can, I think you can ground pound. But the directions, I believe, are kind of randomized, I think. So it's an overall great game. Archer Ival. This one, it's a 1v3 game. It's a fun game. I'd say it's B tier. It's not like it's if you're the one player, you have a good shot at winning because you can use those NPCs that are blocking people from moving to hit the people. I'm going to drop this down to C tier because I don't really like what they did with in Superstars. I think if you hit the Boo or the Koopa, I don't think you get coins anymore. Which is not good, right? Because in the old games you would get coins, so even if you lost, you could still get 2 or 3 coins, I think, as the one shooting. But I don't think they kept that in, so now you just have to hit all 3 or you get nothing at all. I don't really understand why they took that out. It wasn't a big deal. If you do shoot the Koopa and the Boo, then you're making it easier for them to move around. So I feel like you should get coins for that, but they changed it. So actually, I think this version of the game is a little bit worse than in the original, which I would give to B tier. But no, C tier, it's okay. Nothing amazing there. I believe that this one is called Dungeon Dash. Dungeon Dash is a 2v2 game. It's a little bit frustrating to play. I don't know, is it D tier or C tier? Like, you have to cooperate with the other person. I find the way the controls go, it's I'll throw in C tier. It's not really like a bad game. It's just a game that requires a lot of coordination between the 2 players. Not much else to it really. There's obstacles. The obstacles don't really change much though. Like it's always sort of the same game over and over. If there's more variation, I think it would be more interesting and maybe even be higher tier. But sort of on the low end of average. It doesn't really impress much. It's whatever. Rockin' Raceway. This one, I think, is A tier. Rockin' Raceway, you alternate with L and R. Yeah, this is a really good one, I think. Honestly, I would even say it's S tier. Yeah, it's S tier because you got to you got to slow down or keep a certain pace, and you got to watch you have to watch the carrot, whether it becomes bad or good, whatever that thing is that powers you up. And you have to watch your pacing. So you have to be careful not to use up all your energy, otherwise you get punished for that as well. There's a lot going on in this minigame. You have to watch, where everybody else is. How far ahead are they from you? You have to watch the vegetable. You have to be careful with your pacing. There's a lot going on, so it's quite a skilled minigame. And that just makes it great. It's a great racing game. I would say it's superior to probably every other racing game where you're racing. Like, there aren't that many. Like, kind of like Slot Car Derby, but superior to that, I would say. And there's a lot going on, but none of it's really bad. It's like all elements that challenge the player, and I think it's an overall great game. I mean, amazing game, right? S tier. This one, what is this one called? This one is called. I think it's from a newer Mario Party. Could it be? Well, whatever this one's called, I would say it is. I'd say it's C tier. It's not bad. I feel like if in a 1 versus 3 game, I feel like if you're the one player, you have an unfair advantage because you can restrict the movement of the other 3 by how far you move. So if you're good at this mini game, you can often do much better than the other 3. So it's a little bit unbalanced, but the other 3 can still manage. They can still get coins. There's definitely worse games, so I would say C tier. This one is Storm Chasers. Storm Chasers, I would say Storm Chasers is B tier. It's quite a good minigame. You got to chase the cloud, but you also have to watch out. You know, you get other people getting your way, and you have to watch out for the moles that start coming up. If they hit you, they slow you down. So there's quite a bit going on. So it's a fairly skilled minigame, and you know, pretty solid overall. So B tier. This one I think is Puddle Paddle. It's a coin minigame. I kind of feel like it's a worse version of what's it called? It's a worse version of Hammer Drop. Yeah, that's what it feels like to me. I just throw it in B tier. It's just a worse version of Hammer Drop. You can even see how similar it is. It's a 2v2 version, I think, of Hammer Drop, which means it's worse, right? Because 4-player games are usually better. You're in full control then, so yeah. Title Toss. This is a 1v3 game. I think I like this one. This is a good one. So I'd say this is A tier. So Title Toss is the one where, you know, if you're the one in the middle, you can short hop to make a bunch of little waves. You can ground pound to make big waves. And people don't get a lot of invincibility frames when they're fighting against you as the 3 players. So you can trip them up very easily, and winning is certainly possible against most players. If you're among the 3, then you have to survive, and you know, you keep moving forwards. You have to just be careful. You have to watch what's going on. You know, there's quite a bit going on in this game, so it's great. I think it's probably one of the best 1v3 games. I would say it's difficult to make a well-designed 1v3 game, so this is one of those. Parasol Plummet. It's a coin minigame, so it kind of gets bonus points for that reason. I would say it's B tier. It's good. I mean, not much else to say. You collect coins. I do think the game used to be better because I don't think you could push people away in the original, and in this one you can for some reason. I find that pretty frustrating. So it's definitely not A or S tier. It's kind of hit or miss. I feel like you have less control in this version of the minigame in Superstars, but whatever. I'd say B tier. Gets bonus points for being a coin game. This one is, I think this is Etching Catch. I think it's Etching Catch. Yeah. So another 2v2 game that's honestly kind of, it's meh. You know, it's pretty low average C tier game. It's just, you know, the picture moves around. You gotta draw a circle around it. There's not really much to it, you know. It's not that great of a minigame. Not the worst, but again, like there's not really much going on in this game that justifies it being higher. It's sort of just hope that the picture doesn't move away from the circle you're trying to draw, you know, and that's it. Not much to it. Messy Memory. I say this one is Messy Memory is a pretty bad game. It's just a memory game, which I don't think. I'd say that's honestly, this one is probably no. I'd say D tier. It's a bad game. Obviously, it's not luck based; it's memory based. But you can also cheat by looking at other people's screens. You could like draw down a diagram or something, or take a picture with your phone or something to easily ace this game. I just think the overall design of the game is not very good. I don't really think there should be any memory games in Mario Party. It definitely doesn't. I think now more than ever, it doesn't really work. So at best, this is a D tier game. I don't know what this one's called. This one is what is this one called? TikTok Hop. Okay, so TikTok Hop is just well, that's like a 1v1 game, I believe. I don't know, but it's not a. It's a sort of free for all or 1v1 game. It's okay. I would say it's upper average. It's just a standard jumping game. I guess it's sort of like, well, to be fair, it's sort of like hot rope jump, but I find your positioning in this game kind of has an effect on how easy, like how difficult it is. I don't feel like it's not really. It feels like kind of a ripoff of hot rope jump, but not quite as intense for whatever reason. There's a bit more going on with the hands moving, I think, back and forth, but you know, it's a very solid, you know, a high average game, but not really anything that's not been done before, you know. This one is Boulder Toss. I think this is another pretty good 1v3 game. I would put it in upper average. So, you know, how the one player places the boulder is very important. I'd say there's a pretty good balance in terms of, you know, who could win, you know, and it's a pretty fun game, you know, how you angle the boulder, and then when you're coming up the hill, you have to watch how they're angling the boulder and trying to guess where it's going to be as you keep moving upwards. It's a pretty good game. I wouldn't say it's too punishing. If you get hit, you still have a chance of winning. You know, solid, and it's just fun overall. All right, this one. What is this one called? I don't like these ones. Picking Panic, I think it's called. I just throw this into C tier. It's another of those 2v2 games that's very frustrating because if one of the two players really doesn't play this well, then you're just going to lose for sure because one person is grabbing the fruit, the other one's catching it. The way the fruit the timing to catch the fruit from somebody varies with how many fruits there are. So if there's 1, 2, or 3, it kind of changes. And if both players aren't completely comfortable with this, it breaks down very quickly where you're not really having that much fun trying to just get a few points while the other team might be outpacing you massively. So it's kind of a very mad game. I'm usually not too happy to see this selected. So yeah, C tier. Vine with Me, I think it's called. This is a 1v1 type of game, I believe. It's fine. I would say it's upper average. It's B tier. Not much to say really. You just got to time it with the vines. It's kind of like a better version of. Honestly, it's like a better version of the game that I just talked about, the 2v2 one. Because you're kind of just doing it yourself and you're swinging from vine to vine. You got to time your swings based on how long the vines are. You know, pretty straightforward. Not much to say there. Spotlight Swim. B tier. Spotlight Swim is a good game. 1v3. It's pretty balanced. You can kind of duke out the other 3 players. There's opportunities to do that. You can dive under. You know, you can stall them. It's overall quite a good game, and if the 3 players cooperate really well together, it is hard to win, but it's not really impossible in most cases. As long as you duke somebody out. You either duke all 3 out, or if one of them goes off, then, you know, you're safe. But overall, it's a pretty hype game, and yeah, so B tier. Ice Rink Risk. This one's all right. I say C tier because sometimes a shell can actually fall right on your head. I think it's random how the shell falls down and hits somebody. You could be in the wrong spot and just have the shell hit you. And when the shell first lands, it bounces into the air, which is interesting. But it's a fun, like, it's sort of a standard minigame. You know, it's pretty average. It just has sort of its flaws with the shells just falling randomly, and you can get knocked out with very little warning from overhead. So I find that kind of irritating. But other than that, yeah, it's C tier. Pretty good. What's this one called again? This is the, I think this is, Well, I don't even remember what this one's called, but I think it's from like Mario Party 2 or 3. This one is a 1v3 game. It's kind of like it's like a worse version of Look Away, if I'm honest there. It's not very good. I mean, you can cooperate to each pick something different. So you can win that way. But overall, it's kind of all the games they could bring back, I don't really know why they chose this one. I would just say that it's kind of just D tier. It's kind of like, it's kind of luck based in the sense that, like, they could get 2 or 3 players all at once and then the game's over. I feel like Look Away is a bit more forgiving. It's a bit more forgiving for the 3 players than this one is, because in this one you really only have 4 chances, right? Or you only have 4 things that you can hide behind. Whereas Look Away, it's a bit more. It's just a better version of this game, if that makes any sense, as a 1v3 game. So there's not really much of a reason for this to exist. So D tier. Mario's Puzzle Party. This one's okay. I'd say it's like C tier, because yeah, there's some strategy to it. How you arrange the blocks and all that other stuff. But nothing really that special. Like, I don't really have much to say about this one, because it's kind of just, if you like playing puzzle games a lot, then you'd rate this higher. If you don't, you'd rate this pretty low. I kind of just give it C tier. It's okay. Chip Shot Challenge. Chip Shot Challenge, I think, is a great minigame. I'd throw it into A tier. Because the holes vary a lot. There's all kinds of different stages to play on, and you got to adjust your strength of the hit, and also the direction, and you got to do all that in a few seconds, less than 10 seconds. And yes, the only flaw in this game is that the hole stays the same for all the players. So the person who goes first is kind of at a disadvantage. And the person who goes last, can gauge everything after that. If it wasn't for that flaw in this game, then I would say it's an S tier game. But because of that flaw, yeah, it's not perfect, but it's still it's still a really great game. So A tier for a Chip Shot Challenge. Cheap Cheap Chase. This one is A tier. So that one's just you kind of have the button mash to get through. You dive underneath. It's just a standard race. It's a standard kind of racing type of game, and it's great. There's not really anything bad to say about this. It's pretty straightforward. Nothing special, but again, I like this one. It's pretty fun. So A tier. Coconut Conk. It's another 1v3 game that's kind of, so whatever. I'd say C tier, because it's not really the most well-balanced 1v3 game. It's kind of like, well, if you either usually die in about 3 seconds, or you can last a while and you win, but the other players can hit each other. You're kind of just moving back and forth and hoping that you can survive. I would say this favors the 3 players a little more than the 1 player overall. So not really the most well balanced game, but it's far from completely broken or anything like that. So I'd say it's C tier. Bounce and Trounce. So this is a good one from Mario Party 3. I would say it's upper average. It doesn't really it's obviously there's quite a fair bit of skill involved. The platforms start falling after a little while. You can jump and you can spin to knock people away. So there's a fair bit to this game, but nothing too outstanding. I would say it's pretty, it feels like a pretty average game. So B tier. Okay, moving on to whatever this one's called. It's from, I thought it was from Mario Party 3, I don't really know. But this one, B tier. It's alright, it's just a standard 1v1 game. You have the electricity you need to avoid, you have the boosts you need to try to go after. Not much else to say, really. It's just standard sort of 1v1 racing game. Mush Pit. Mush Pit is pretty fun. I just like it overall. You know, you're racing for that mushroom and then trying to avoid getting hit by whoever grabs it. It's a good 4-player madness type of game. And yeah, so A tier. Eats a Pizza is a 2v2 game, also A tier. I actually think that this may be the best 2v2 player game in Superstars. It's pretty fun. You know, you just have to mash and go in the right direction and figure out, you know, with the person that you're with, that how to best, you know, how to eat the pizza as quickly as possible, sort of cooperate. You can actually eat the whole thing before the timer's up, so there's that too, but it's whoever completes it faster. So it's, you know, nice intensive 2v2 game. Not much else to say, just really solid. Snowball Summit is pretty good. I would say it's almost A tier, but I put it in B tier because it's a little too easy for people to gang up on you, which kind of ruins the, you know, it can mess with the dynamic. If it's an even enough game, then I would say it's, you know, a lot of fun. But yeah, I'd say it's a very solid 4-player game. Whatever this one's called, I don't remember because this is probably one of the newer ones. So the names I don't really know too well. But this one is a 1v3 game with. It's a coin collecting game, but nothing really. It's really unremarkable. So I'd say C tier. It's just a very unremarkable coin collecting game. Not much to say there. Paths of Peril. I like this one a lot. This one's A tier. You got to take the right path. You got to go as quick as you can, and the paths kind of vary a little bit, but I think there's a little bit of luck involved in terms of, you know, which path is better. I don't think there's a certain way to figure that out, as far as I know. But it's just an overall interesting game to play. Worth, you know, you can go left, you can go right. Whoever gets to the end quickest, you know, it's pretty standard, but also has its own twist. So A tier. This is the soccer minigame. What's that called? I do not know what this one's called, but it's a 1v3 game. The soccer game with the 3 players shooting into the net. I think it's pretty well balanced. For a 1v3 game, I would even say it's A tier, because as far as 1v3 games go, it's probably one of the more balanced ones. It's just there's a lot of choice for both sides. There's a lot of choice in how in the movement, you know, and shooting. There's a lot of choice in how much power you can put into your shot and what direction. And overall, it's just a pretty hype game. So, and the person in the net can jump from one side to the next pretty quick as well. So it's overall, everything's sort of well balanced, and it's pretty fun. All right, next one is Trace Race. I would argue that this one is, well, it's A tier. A tier. Just a nice solid game. It's like Crazy Cutters, except it's horizontal instead of circular, if that makes any sense. You know, Crazy Cutters, you're kind of going in a circle, but for this one, you're just kind of racing along. But it's the same idea. You know, it's great. Tracing games are fun. Nothing wrong with that. So, A tier. This volleyball game is, I don't really know how to categorize these sports games, so I'm just going to throw this one. This one is a, the controls are kind of awkward in this one, so I don't really particularly like it. I don't even know if it's played normally, so I'm just going to throw it into D tier because it's a 2v2 game with very awkward controls, as far as I know. I don't really think too highly of it, so D tier. Alright, next one is Book Squirm, I believe it's called. Book Squirm is okay. Like, you can end in a, well, sometimes it can end in everybody getting squashed, which means I don't know if those players win or not. I can't remember. I don't know what happens. Does nobody win, or is it just 2 players win? The last player's remaining win if they both get crushed at the same time. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm going to throw this into lower average because C tier, because it's not a bad minigame, but it will often end in just, it could often end in 2 players getting crushed at the same time, which I don't know. It's okay, but I don't really feel particularly strongly with regard to it. You can kind of push people around too. There's a little bit of a interaction there, but not much. It's pretty limited. Nightlight Fright, D tier. It's timing, but the timing varies between the players, so it's kind of hard to gauge. I don't think it's a surefire thing in terms of skill. Like you have to just take your best guess essentially. It's not Bowser's Big Blast where it's all up to chance completely. You have an influence over the outcome. But overall, I'd say this is just a D tier minigame. It's certainly not. It's far from my favorite because you have to just guess, make your best guess based on the pattern, and that's it. And there's a sort of a delay too when you hit the A button. You have to keep that in mind with the flashlight. It's a little bit. It's just kind of frustrating to play when you have to deal with these kinds of delays, right? So. Reversable is a 2v2 game, and I think it's actually one of the best ones as well. I throw this up into A tier because you can kind of move with a little bit of cooperation. You kind of have free range of how high up or low you can go on the buttons, and it's just an intensive like push down the button. It comes up, push it down again. You know, it's just a constant struggle, right? And I think it's an intensive, fun game. That's not really seriously flawed in any way, so I throw it into A tier. This one, oh boy, what is this one even called? It's from one of the newer Mario parties. I need to know what this one's called because I want to know because I don't like this one. Coney Island. There we go. Coney Island, F tier. I think this game is horrible because. So the shadows show up, right? And you go underneath the shadows and you collect the ice cream, right? You can't even if you're just standing there, if you've already made it to the spot, nobody can even push you out of the way. It's just yours. You can just wait for it to fall, and then that's it. And then the next one's fall, and then that's it. And it's random, I think, where they fall, and it's just very it just feels frustrating to play because you're just standing around waiting for something to fall. Everyone's already occupying a space. You can't push them out of the way. You can't really do anything. All you can do is hope that a shadow appears close enough to you that you can get to it in time and just wait for the ice cream to fall. It's really basic. Like it's an extremely easy minigame to play because you just move to the shadow and then you just sit there and you wait. It's very low effort. It's kind of limiting in terms of the skill factor. Obviously, it's a little bit more skilled than Bowser's Big Blast, but I just don't find the minigame to be fun whatsoever. You can't push people. You can't punch them or do anything like that. There's no player. There's actually no player interaction at all. Even though you're all walking around and you can move next to each other, it manages to have no player interaction somehow, which just makes it one of the worst 4-player games you can play. So, F tier. It's just not interesting either. Like in any way, I don't find this game interesting. It's trash. So, what's this one? I'm confused. This is Nightlight Fright. What's this then? Oh, this is some other game. Oh, this is like one of the sports games. Alright, so we'll just throw that into C tier. Sorry. So this Nightlight Fright, D tier. Just to clear up that confusion. This is one of those games that doesn't really show up much. And it doesn't show up in the original playthrough, I think. Like when you're playing the standard Mario Party. But Nightlight Fright is this one, so that's a D tier. Okay, Bill Blasters or something to do with bullet bills. This one's okay. It's pretty it's pretty fun to hit. It's a fun game to play. You can sort of be ganged up on as well, but you can use your cannon as defense. You can stop whenever. A lot of control. Like you can stop whenever you want. It's a little awkward when you hit the button and the thing just stops immediately. I find it's a little bit. It's a little bit. The controls are not the best for this game. There's no delay whatsoever when you hit the button, which is kind of a good thing, but you're spinning so fast that it's pretty intense, right? You have to have really good aim to do all of this. I would say it's a solid B tier game though in terms of being a 4-player game. Next one, this is another sports game, so it's all right. I'll just throw in the C tier. This one, oh, this is the, what's it called? I know this one. It's called, what's it called? Well, anyway, it's the one with the 3 big squares, and you're the small square. You gotta avoid getting hit, just crushed by the 3 big squares. It's alright. It's kind of, I'd say B tier. It's a good game. It can kind of go either way, you know. You got to plan ahead to where the small square is going to be, kind of work together to crush them, and then the small square can, juke out the other 3. So it's pretty well balanced as far as 1v3s go, which are difficult to do so. I'd say it's a great one. Later Skater. It's a good game. It's not too exciting or anything like that. Just go around in a circle and kind of race around. The controls are kind of what you would expect for something that's slippery and ice. You got to make good turns and B tier. Dinger Derby, A tier. So that's just hitting the balls as good as you can, right? That's all there is to it. It's a nice minigame. There's a lot of variation. It really varies up the speed of the throws, and it's pretty intense. So it's a nice, good competition between the 4 players. There's no player interaction, but other than that, it's done quite well. Bushy Penguins. I just don't really like this one. D tier. I just don't like it. All you do is move, and you're kind of just hoping you don't get. It's kind of random where the penguins move. You can have multiple winners as well, if more than one person survives. But even then, like, you're kind of just hoping. You're kind of just going through. You're hoping not to get pushed off. It's just not a very. It's not. There's not really a whole lot going on, but at the same time, it's kind of. It's very easy to get caught up and just thrown off. I don't really see it being. I see it being one of the worst games in this whole selection, so I'm just going to put it into D tier. It's definitely not the worst minigame. I would even say it's probably near the top of D tier. Here, it's probably one of the best low tier games, but it's still not quite it's not an average game, I don't think. All right, Leaf Leap. I throw that into A tier. Leaf Leap is great. Once you get used to it a bit, like it's you got to time your jumps. You got to sort of balance how fast you're going. How fast do you want to jump? While risking mistakes, right? Because the faster you go, the more likely you are to make some kind of mistake, and you can get punished for that. But it's pretty fun. You just, you got to make a decision: jump up or jump to the other side. Jump up, jump to the other side, and it's just a question of how high up you can go, and the scenery changes as you go up, and it's a great 4-player game. So A tier. This one is the game with one's in the big tube with spikes, and the other in little tubes, and they can get destroyed. I think it's another great 1v3 game, so I'm going to throw this into. I'm going to put this into. A tier. So it's because it's on par with games like I'd say like Title Toss, Quicksand Cash. Those 1v3 games are pretty good. This one is also good. Like you can speed up with A, you can slow down with B, you can move from left to right. I would say it's pretty well balanced between everything's pretty well balanced. It's fun. It's satisfying to pop them if you're the one player trying to pop everybody. It's satisfying to get them. You're slower than everybody else, but you don't really feel that disadvantaged because you can trap people and trick them. So yeah, A tier for that one. This one is just a 2v2 version of Hot Rope Jump, basically. So it's worse. So I'll just put it into B tier. It's like this game, but it's a 2v2. So it's just, I mean, it's worse. It's worse. Slightly worse anyway. Oh, this one. This is the one where you drive and you hit two rocks together, and D tier. This one's not very good. I find like it runs very slow, and it's like it's basically just running up to a rock, button mashing. Maybe there's a bit of a strategy there where you can jump and kick it. But yeah, it's kind of it's pretty plain, and it's just not like a lot of 2v2 games. It's just not that good. Once you fall behind, it's like you're kind of just waiting to lose unless you mess up or the other team just starts really doing well. I don't know, but it's not that fun to play. I find you're kind of just half the time you're just watching the game go to the next rock, and yeah. This one is the space one. I don't know what it's called. It's one of the newer games. It's one of the newer mini games. I don't remember it. I would say that this one's it's a 1v1 game. It's I would say B tier because it's you have to be kind of precise getting around the rocks. And you sort of have that momentum when you're in space. When you're floating, you have to be careful to control your momentum, and it's nothing special by any means, but it's pretty intense to like if you're playing against somebody on this, like you're focused and trying not to hit those rocks. So I do think they could do a bit of a better job with it. Like if you move more quickly, then you should be able to get further ahead, but you're kind of just stuck in the same position as everybody else. You're kind of stuck in the same position as the other player, so it's all about just not hitting the rocks, as far as I'm aware. So it'd be higher up if it had a little bit more going on, but still B tier. Bowser's game with the fire and the charging, C tier. Like it's kind of hit or miss, I mean, for this one, you're only going to lose coins, I think, if you lose, and you don't really get anything if you win. So there's also that to consider. But yeah, it's just not particularly great. This one is the what's this one called? I know what this one's called. I heard about it just recently. Trying to remember. I don't know. Who cares? I know what it is. It's the one where you have the cages, and you got to drop the cage at the right time. You have like 10 seconds, and you get one shot, and then however many Goombas, whoever has the most Goombas wins. This is a bad game. I would say D tier. You're just sitting there and hoping that there's enough Goombas, including a golden one, maybe even two. A golden one that runs really quick. You're hoping that there's enough that get under your cage for you to drop it, because it's possible that for those whole like 10 seconds, there's never actually enough Goombas for you to really justify dropping it. So you're kind of just stuck with a suboptimal number of Goombas, and that's it, and then you lose. So there's a big luck factor in this game. So it's pretty bad in that sense, quite bad. It's a little bit more fun though, like to try to catch as many Goombas as you can. So it's more fun than the Coney Island game or whatever it's called. But yeah, it's not great by any means. It's definitely a bad minigame. This is another coin minigame. It's just very easy. Like it's ridiculously easy to get coins. So I'd say C tier. Like, okay, it's a very mad game. It's not bad because hey, it's free coins, so you can't really complain about that. Both teams are going to get. It's a 2v2 coin game, so both teams are just going to get like 20 coins each. Almost guaranteed because of how easy the minigame is. It's just ridiculously easy, so that's why it's C tier. If there's a bit more to it, it would be higher tier. What's this one? This one is another coin game. I cannot remember them because it's not from the first 3 Mario parties, so I just don't remember a lot of the names. Yeah, I don't know. It's the coin collecting one where you have to guess. Yeah, you have to see it. You see ahead of time what's in the box, and then you open the box up. Again, it's It's a 4-player game though. I'd say it's a little bit more difficult than this one, and it's also a 4-player game. So I'll throw it into B tier. You're just guessing. You're not guessing, but you're seeing ahead of time and sort of opening the boxes as they come. And it's a pretty easy game, but at least it's a 4-player game, so I would give it a higher score, B tier. I have no idea what this one is. Oh yeah, I do. C tier. It's whatever. Alright, Bowser's. This is another Bowser minigame, where he throws the spiked balls at you. It's a lot like the Ice Rink Risk game with the shells. So I just throw it into C tier. Yeah, it's not really. It's kind of the same thing, because eventually you have 3 shells here, eventually you have 3 balls there, and it's just avoiding them. You can't jump though in Bowser's version of this. You can't jump though in the Bowser minigame, so there's less of an option on what to do. So, you know, I would even argue potentially that, yeah, this is probably D tier. It's a worse version of the shell game, so D tier. Probably higher D tier, but it's still not a good minigame. This one, what's this one called? What's this one called? Okay, yeah, this one is called What Goes Up. So I'd say this is a lot like Leaf Leap, except it's even better than Leaf Leap. It's S tier, because you have free range of movement. You can move anywhere, right? Leaf Leap is kind of like you move up, you move to the other side, or you stay up, and that's it. This one, you have free range movement, so you can jump however you want. If you make a mistake, you can be punished quite a bit. You can fall pretty far, but it's quite a skill intensive game in terms of how you angle your jumps and how you jump just in general. There's more going on than Leaf Leap. It's just a better version of Leaf Leap, which is an A tier minigame. So this is an S tier minigame, easily S tier. I can't say anything bad about this one. Yeah, really all there is to it. It's great. This is the one where you catch mail from a shy guy. It's okay. C tier. The shy guys kind of randomly move around, and you can also get the special letter, which will give you more points. But other than that, it's pretty meh, like C tier. The skateboard game, this is F tier. So my problem with this minigame is that it doesn't really work on every controller, especially the GameCube controller. I find it's very difficult to play on the GameCube controller. When you're trying to press all the buttons, you can't even really play the minigame normally because of how it's designed. It's very bad design, I think, and yeah, I sort of figured out how, but yeah, it's not really meant to be played on a GameCube controller, which is not good, because Mario Party Superstars is obviously intended for more veteran players, I would say. So the fact that you can't play it well on a GameCube controller is a huge strike against it. And then aside from that, it's not really particularly interesting. You're kind of just pressing a bunch of buttons around and around and waiting for everybody else to do the same thing, and whoever has the best score wins. But the problem is the controls conflict with the layout of the GameCube controller to an extent, and I just don't think I think it's pretty awful. So that being said, it's not terrible on every single controller, so maybe I'll give it D tier. I'll give it D tier because it's not completely unplayable. Yeah, alright. We'll give it D tier. It doesn't really deserve to be given the same score as Bowser's Big Blast, I guess. Then we have this numbers game. I forget what it's called, but you can punch people. You can, maybe try to play it safe or get involved, try to punch people off. Pretty good game. I would say it is B tier. It's a solid, good 4-player game where you gotta watch the numbers, you gotta watch everybody else, and that's it. This one's C tier. because again, I've never seen this minigame before, so it's whatever. It doesn't get played in the standard game. Alright, this one is Spin Doctor, I think. This is F tier. Or, yeah, this is F tier. I just, like, it's a very boring game. And, like, I just think it's boring. And I find there's something wrong with the game where, like, even if you're going as fast as you can never quite get to the next thing. Like, the hitbox on it or something, it'll just close off right before you can reach it, and you gotta wait for it to turn all around, then you go on to it. I find that's one of the worst things about this game. It just seems like it's an easy minigame, but it's just very bland and doesn't really have much going on, so it's quite bad. It's like Coney Island type of levels of bad, so it's not very intensive whatsoever. You're kind of just waiting around for things to spin, and yeah, there's not much to it. This is a 1v3 game. I'd say it's okay. I find it's a little bit frustrating though, because for the one player it can be pretty difficult. You gotta get all three to fall through a hole, which again, like, it can be pretty difficult to pull that off. And if you're one of the three players, yeah, I'd say it favors the three players a little bit here. So C tier. It's not particularly fun to play either. Like, it's not the worst game, but it's not particularly interesting. The mole game. Like, I don't have any idea what these things are called, because they're all from the new Mario Party. The mole game is solid game. I give it B tier. Whoever, you gotta stay out the longest, but you gotta be careful not to be out too long. You get hit and you get punished. You gotta compete with everybody else for the spaces. You gotta know which space is probably the best idea. If nobody else is going for it, maybe you should go for that one. And there's a lot going on, so it's a pretty good game. Pokey Pommel. It's button mashing. S tier. Gotta throw it into S tier because you got the button. It's a short, nice, just mash A, and that's it. So I gotta put it into S tier. This is another coin mini game. There's better ones, I think. I'd say B tier. This Piranha Plant coin mini game is okay, but yeah, it's whatever. Then you have the 2v2 painting one, C tier. This one's just you're just spamming for a long time, blue and red, on the Goombas, right? But all that matters at the end is who has more colored at the very end. So all that time you spend just painting them for like 20 seconds or whatever, it's kind of just a waste, because all that really matters is the final couple of seconds, where whatever's painted red or blue that's the winner, right? So it's not particularly interesting. I would say it's just a C tier minigame. Okay, then you have the Counting Goombas one. Well, I put Roll Call in C tier, so I would say this is like, yeah, it's also C tier. It's just a Roll Call, but done a bit differently. Not much else to say there. Tackle Takedown. I know this one. So Tackle Takedown is a pretty good 1v3 game. I give it B tier, because the one player has like the one player has sort of a rushing thing that they can do, and then the other ones have the tackle, and it's a very short minigame, but as far as 1v3s go, it's a pretty decently balanced game, so I'd give it B tier. Manner of Escape. Probably D tier. It's kind of like a luck game, but you kind of have to watch what's going on. Not really, like, it's not that good, because the outcome is usually kind of random, because it's like whoever gets to the door that works first, and then, so on and so forth. So D tier. Manner of Escape is not really that good of a game. What's this one? I don't know what this one is. Oh, that's the Shell Soccer game. Alright, we'll just throw that into C tier. That's the one with, it's a 2v2 standard 2v2 game. Just C tier. This one, I feel like this is unfairly balanced for the, well, I'd say C tier. So this one, it's like the one player has to knock out everybody else with the switching. It's definitely not that good of a game because I feel like it favors the 3 players a little too much. But, you know, I mean, there's definitely a lot worse out there, as you can see below here with the D tier and the F tiers. So I'd say it's not quite in that category. This one, on the other hand, this free-for-all game is pretty bad, D tier. This one is just, again, it's only the last second that matters. Whoever gets the best photo at the very last second wins. It's kind of like you just mess around for the first 8 seconds. In the last second or two, it's like, okay, whoever's in front wins, and that's it. It's one of those games from the newer Mario parties that aren't very good. Let's just put it that way. All right, and then this last one is Rapid River Race, and I think this is a solid game. A tier, because you can go a bit slower and like have an easier time with the obstacles, or you can risk it all and go at max speed and hopefully win that way. Alright, but if you get hit, of course you're going to get knocked back. So it's a pretty intensive racing game. I think it's pretty well balanced in terms of the speed and the risk and the reward. Very good, so A tier. Alright, so that's every mini game. So we have 5 in S tier. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we have 5 in S tier. We have 21 in A tier. We have 28 in B tier. We have 30 in C tier. We have 13 in D tier, and we have 3 in F tier. So overall, there's certainly more games, I think, that are great than there are bad games. A lot of games got hit with the lower average C tier. We have 30 minigames here that are like that, so but that doesn't mean they're not unplayable. They're not horrible games. They're just kind of games that I would prefer. I feel slightly negative when I choose them, or when they get chosen, right? I feel slightly negative about it. Here I feel slightly positive, and then everything else is really great. But in terms of games that are particularly bad, there aren't really that many, right? There's only maybe 17 games out of 100 that are bad or terrible. It's not really. So Nintendo did a decent job picking minigames, because the average game in Superstars is good. So we can say that. I'd say the average minigame is at least a B tier, so that's pretty good. So yeah, as expected, Superstars probably does better than the majority of Mario parties. I would say that since Mario Party 3, this is probably the best Mario Party that we've ever had. And that's why I wanted to rate all these minigames, because I feel like it was deserved for this particular installment. So yeah, that's all I have for this video.